The moment Mark Wilson stepped into that luxury restaurant, his worn shoes squeaking against marble floors, he knew he didn't belong. But what he couldn't know was how this dinner would change everything, not just for him, but for his daughter Emma too. If you've ever felt like life has dealt you an impossible hand, this story might just give you the hope you need today. And if it touches your heart, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that remind us of the unexpected kindness in this world. 20 minutes earlier, Mark had been frantically ironing his only decent shirt, the one he saved for job interviews. His hands trembled slightly as Emma, his 9-year-old daughter, watched from the doorway of their small apartment. "You look handsome, Dad," she said, her voice still raspy from her recent bout with pneumonia. The medical bills from her hospitalization sat in a stack on their kitchen counter, each envelope marked with increasingly urgent red stamps. "Thanks, sweetie. Mrs. Patel will be here any minute to stay with you." Mark tried to sound confident, though inside his stomach churned with anxiety. Why would Katherine Reynolds, CEO of Reynolds Enterprises, one of the largest companies in the city, invite him, a janitor, to dinner? When the email had arrived 3 days ago, he'd almost deleted it as spam. "Mark, I'd like to discuss something important with you. Please join me for dinner Thursday at Lucille." It was signed simply, Katherine Reynolds. He'd only spoken to her once, when he was emptying trash bins late one evening and she'd asked him for directions to the mail room. He'd stammered through an explanation, embarrassed at being noticed. As Mark handed the valet his 15-year-old Honda Civic keys, he noticed the subtle wince on the young man's face. Inside Lucille, crystal chandeliers threw dancing light across white tablecloths. A host with perfect posture approached. "I'm meeting Katherine Reynolds," Mark said quietly, his voice nearly swallowed by the soft piano music. "Ah, yes. Ms. Reynolds is expecting you. This way, please." Katherine sat at a corner table, her tailored suit and confident posture marking her as someone who belonged in spaces like this. She smiled warmly as Mark approached, standing to shake his hand. "Thank you for coming, Mark. Please, sit." The waiter appeared instantly, pouring water and reciting specials that Mark couldn't focus on. His mind raced with possibilities. Was he being fired? Had he done something wrong? "Order whatever you'd like," Katherine said, seemingly noting his discomfort. "The steak here is excellent." Mark nodded, choosing the least expensive option he could find. Once the waiter departed, Katherine folded her hands on the table. "I imagine you're wondering why I asked you here tonight." "Yes, ma'am." Mark's throat felt dry despite the water he'd just sipped. "I noticed you a few months ago, working late. Every night, actually. You're always the last one to leave the building." Mark shifted uncomfortably. "I pick up extra shifts when I can. My daughter, she's been sick, and the medical bills." He trailed off, embarrassed to be sharing personal problems with his boss's boss's boss. Katherine nodded. "I know about Emma. That's actually why I wanted to speak with you." Mark's heart stopped. How did she know his daughter's name? 3 months ago, I was working late, Katherine continued. I had a terrible headache and went to the break room for water. I overheard you on the phone with the hospital. You were so worried, but so gentle explaining to Emma why you couldn't be there right away. You promised her you'd be there as soon as your shift ended, even though it was nearly midnight. Mark remembered that night. Emma had spiked a fever, and he'd been terrified but couldn't afford to lose the hours. Katherine's eyes softened. My father was a single parent too. He worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat after my mother died. I used to fall asleep listening to him paying bills at the kitchen table, adding figures again and again, trying to make the math work somehow. She paused, taking a sip of water. Last week, I saw you in the parking garage. You were on the phone again, and I heard you say something about having to choose between electricity and medication. Mark's face burned with shame. He stared at his plate, wishing he could disappear. I'm not telling you this to embarrass you, Mark. I'm telling you because I've been where Emma is. I know what it's like to have a parent who would do anything, work any hour, sacrifice any comfort, to take care of you. The waiter returned with their meals. Mark couldn't imagine eating now, his stomach twisted in knots. The reason I asked you here, Katherine continued after the waiter left, is because I want to offer you a position. Our facilities management team needs a supervisor. The pay is double what you're making now, with full benefits. The hours are regular, you'd be home evenings to have dinner with Emma. Mark stared at her, certain he'd misheard. But I don't have management experience. You've been handling the night shift with minimal supervision for 2 years. Your performance reviews are stellar. And more importantly, you have the integrity and work ethic we need. Mark's eyes burned as he fought back tears. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Katherine smiled. But that's not all. Reynolds Enterprises has a foundation that assists employees with extraordinary medical expenses not covered by our insurance. I've already approved emergency assistance for Emma's outstanding bills. A tear escaped, rolling down Mark's cheek before he could stop it. Why would you do this for us? Katherine's professional demeanor softened completely then. When I was 12, my father collapsed from exhaustion. He'd been working around the clock, just like you. A man, his boss, came to the hospital. He offered my father a better position, one that would allow him to be home more. That man changed our lives with that single act of kindness. She reached into her purse and pulled out an old, creased photograph of a young girl with a tall man standing beside her. That's me and my dad, the day he got promoted. When I became CEO, I promised myself I would pay forward what was given to us. Mark couldn't hold back his emotions any longer. I don't know how to thank you. Just be there for Emma. And someday, when you're in a position to help someone else who's struggling, remember tonight. When Mark returned home that evening, he found Emma asleep on the couch, waiting up despite Mrs. Patel's instructions. He gently lifted his daughter, marveling at how light she felt in his arms, and carried her to bed. Dad, she murmured sleepily. How was your dinner? Mark kissed her forehead, his heart so full it might burst. It was a beginning, sweetheart. A new beginning for us. 3 years later, Mark stood in Katherine's office, now as the director of facilities. On his desk sat the same photograph Katherine had shown him that night, now framed alongside a picture of Emma at her middle school graduation, healthy, smiling, and thriving. You wanted to see me? Mark asked. Katherine nodded. There's a new hire in the maintenance department. Single mother, 3 kids. Her youngest has special needs. I thought you might want to keep an eye on her, see if she needs any support. Mark smiled, understanding perfectly. I'll take care of it. That night at dinner, Mark told Emma the full story of that night with Katherine, something he'd never shared completely before. Emma, now a confident teenager with dreams of becoming a doctor, listened intently. So that's why you always insist on interviewing the maintenance staff personally, she said thoughtfully. You're looking for people who need a chance, like Katherine gave you. Mark nodded. Sometimes people just need someone to notice their struggle. Sometimes the smallest opportunity can change everything. Emma squeezed his hand across the table. When I become a doctor, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to notice people too. And in that moment, Mark knew the chain of kindness Katherine had continued would extend far beyond him, a ripple effect of compassion that would touch lives he would never even know.